The haunted highway. The desolate stretch of Highway 66 had always been a place of eerie tales and strange happenings. Nestled deep in the heart of the countryside, it snaked through dense woods and open fields, shrouded in darkness when night fell. Locals knew better than to venture there after sundown, for the highway had a sinister reputation, and whispers of its malevolent hauntings were shared around campfires and in dimly lit bars. It was on a moonless night when Sarah and Jake, a young couple on a cross-country road trip, found themselves reluctantly navigating the treacherous path of Highway 66. They had miscalculated their journey time, and the gas station attendant had pointed them toward the dreaded road, promising it would save them hours of driving. The couple's old sedan rumbled along the uneven asphalt, tires squealing in protest as they made their way deeper into the forest. The towering trees seemed to lean menacingly over the road, casting long, spindly shadows that danced in the car's headlights. "Are you sure this is the right way?" Sarah asked, her voice shaky as the eerie silence of the night pressed in on them. Jake glanced at the GPS, which displayed nothing but static. "Yeah, it should be. It's a shortcut, and it'll get us to the next town faster." Sarah looked out of the window, her eyes catching glimpses of strange shapes darting among the trees. "Did you see that?" "See what?" Jake replied, his knuckles white as he gripped the steering wheel. "Something moving in the woods, like a shadow," she said, her voice trembling. Jake shook his head. "You're just tired, babe. Don't worry about it." But worry crept into their hearts like a malignant disease, and a growing sense of unease settled between them as they drove further into the night. As they continued along the desolate highway, Sarah began to notice something peculiar. The trees and landmarks seemed to repeat, as if they were trapped in an endless loop. She mentioned it to Jake, who dismissed her fears as exhaustion-induced hallucinations. However, the hands on the clock spun far faster than they should have, and the miles on the odometer ticked by at an impossible rate. Panic began to well up in Sarah's chest, and she pleaded with Jake to stop the car and turn back. But it was too late. The car suddenly shuddered and came to an abrupt halt. The engine died, and the headlights flickered and faded into darkness. Jake tried to restart the car, but it remained stubbornly lifeless. As they sat there in the oppressive silence, the night seemed to stretch on endlessly. Sarah reached for her phone to call for help, but it displayed only a blank screen. Their only source of light was the pale glow of the moon, which filtered through the trees. Then, as if from nowhere, a low, mournful wail echoed through the night. It was a sound that sent shivers down their spines, a sound that seemed to come from the very depths of despair. Sarah's heart raced, and she gripped Jake's hand tightly. "We need to get out of here. Now." They opened the car doors and stepped out onto the desolate highway. The air was thick with an unnatural chill, and the moonlight cast eerie shadows on the road. Sarah felt as though they were being watched by unseen eyes. They began to walk back the way they had come, retracing their path in the hopes of finding an exit from this cursed highway. But with each step, the world around them seemed to twist and warp, as if the very fabric of reality was unraveling. Time itself became a malevolent force, and the couple found themselves walking for what felt like hours, though the moon remained fixed in the sky. Their memories grew hazy, and they couldn't recall how long they had been wandering. Then, as if emerging from a fog, they stumbled upon a dilapidated gas station. Its neon sign flickered weakly, casting an eerie, greenish glow over the cracked pavement. The place looked abandoned, but a sense of desperate hope compelled them to enter. Inside, the air was heavy with the smell of decay, and the shelves were lined with dusty, long-expired snacks and magazines. An old radio crackled to life, emitting a static-filled voice that spoke of strange disappearances on Highway 66, of lost souls condemned to wander its endless curves for eternity. Sarah and Jake exchanged terrified glances, realizing that they had become trapped in the very nightmare they had heard whispered about in hushed tones. The gas station attendant, an elderly man with hollow eyes, appeared behind the counter. "You can't escape this place," he said, his voice a haunting echo of their own thoughts. "Once you're on Highway 66, you're lost forever." Desperation gripped them, and they ran back outside, only to find themselves once again on the cursed road, the gas station vanishing into thin air behind them. The night was unending, and the malevolent wail grew louder, drowning out their cries for help. As they continued to wander the haunted highway, their memories faded, their identities blurred, and their existence became a never-ending nightmare. They joined the countless others who had vanished into the depths of Highway 66, their fate sealed by the malevolent forces that lurked in the darkness. And so, the legend of the haunted highway claimed 2 more souls, adding to the chorus of lost and tormented spirits that whispered through the trees, warning all who dared to venture onto its cursed path. Highway 66 remained a place of dread and despair, a nightmarish realm where time stood still, and the lost souls of the damned roamed for all eternity. Sarah and Jake's existence on Highway 66 had become a twisted nightmare, a never-ending loop of despair and confusion. Days bled into nights, and their memories continued to fade, leaving them as mere shells of their former selves. The malevolent wail echoed in their ears, a constant reminder of their entrapment. But as time passed, or perhaps it was more accurate to say, as time stood still, a strange and unexpected transformation began to occur. Sarah and Jake found themselves starting to piece together fragments of their lost memories. They remembered the cross-country road trip, the gas station attendant's directions, and the ill-fated decision to take the shortcut. One night, as they walked along the cursed highway, they stumbled upon a tattered old journal half buried in the gravel at the roadside. It was filled with handwritten notes and sketches, the work of someone who had clearly been trapped on this accursed road for a long time. As they pored over the journal's pages, they discovered that it belonged to a man named Samuel, who had been traveling with his family when they too had become ensnared by Highway 66. Samuel had documented their experiences, and his writings revealed a horrifying truth. Highway 66 was not just haunted, it was a malevolent entity itself. It fed on the lost souls who strayed onto its path, trapping them in an endless cycle of despair to sustain its insatiable hunger. Samuel's family had been among its earliest victims, and he had spent years trying to find a way to escape. The journal contained descriptions of strange symbols and rituals that Samuel believed might hold the key to breaking the highway's curse. Desperation drove Sarah and Jake to follow the cryptic instructions, conducting the rituals under the pale moonlight. They had nothing left to lose, and their desire to escape this living nightmare burned brighter than ever. As they chanted incantations and drew intricate patterns in the dirt, the very air seemed to crackle with energy. The malevolent wail grew louder and more agonizing, a chorus of tormented souls crying out in anguish. For a moment, it felt as though the highway itself was fighting back, resisting their attempts to break free. But then, with a deafening roar, the night shattered around them. The ground trembled, and the trees that had loomed over them for so long twisted and contorted, as if in agony. The moon, which had hung motionless in the sky, suddenly streaked across the heavens, and time itself rushed forward like a river unleashed from its dam. Sarah and Jake were thrown to the ground, their bodies racked with pain as the very fabric of reality shifted around them. When they finally opened their eyes, they were no longer on Highway 66. Instead, they found themselves standing in a quiet meadow bathed in the soft light of dawn. Relief washed over them as they realized they had escaped the clutches of the haunted highway. Their memories had returned, and they embraced each other, grateful to be free at last. As they looked around, they saw a figure approaching in the distance. It was Samuel, the man whose journal had guided them to their escape. He explained that he had been trapped on Highway 66 for decades, but his relentless pursuit of a way out had led him to discover the rituals that had saved them. However, Samuel carried a heavy burden of guilt. He revealed that in his quest to escape, he had inadvertently caused others to become trapped on the highway, perpetuating its curse. He had become a guardian of sorts, helping those who found themselves ensnared, yet always haunted by the knowledge of the souls lost to the road. Sarah and Jake knew they couldn't simply leave Samuel behind, so they vowed to help him break the curse once and for all. Armed with the knowledge from the journal and their own harrowing experience, they returned to Highway 66, determined to confront the malevolent entity that had tormented so many. What they discovered in the heart of the haunted highway was a darkness beyond imagination, a sentient force that thrived on suffering. It fought back with all its might, but Sarah, Jake, and Samuel were relentless in their efforts. Through sheer determination and the power of their newfound knowledge, they began to weaken the highway's hold. As the malevolent entity's power waned, the lost souls it had trapped began to find their way to freedom. They emerged from the shadows, their faces etched with years of torment. With a final, defiant act, Sarah, Jake, and Samuel shattered the curse, banishing the malevolent entity from Highway 66 forever. The cursed road unraveled like a fading nightmare, its asphalt disappearing into the ether. The lost souls were set free, and a sense of peace settled over the once haunted highway. Sarah, Jake, and Samuel had not only escaped but had become saviors to those who had suffered before them. In the end, they stood together on the now vanished highway, their ordeal finally over. The haunting wail faded into the distance, replaced by the gentle rustling of leaves in the breeze. They had uncovered the haunting truth of Highway 66 and, against all odds, had emerged victorious. After their harrowing battle against the malevolent entity that had haunted Highway 66, Sarah, Jake, and Samuel believed their ordeal was finally over. They had liberated the lost souls, shattered the curse, and restored peace to the once dreaded road. But as they stood together, a disquieting sensation washed over them, like an unsettling premonition. Days turned into weeks, and a strange restlessness began to creep into their lives. It was as though the curse that had once bound them to Highway 66 had left an indelible mark on their souls. Each night, they experienced vivid, unsettling dreams, filled with dark visions of the highway and its malevolent wail. One fateful evening, as they gathered around a campfire, a mysterious figure emerged from the shadows. A man with piercing eyes and an air of otherworldly knowledge approached them. He introduced himself as Nathaniel, a traveler who had roamed the world seeking answers to the mysteries of cursed places. Nathaniel's arrival sent shivers down their spines, for he seemed to know more about the malevolent entity than they had ever dared to imagine. He spoke of ancient legends and forbidden rituals that could empower the entity, enabling it to return with even greater malevolence. As the group listened in trepidation, Nathaniel revealed that the malevolent entity they thought they had banished from Highway 66 was merely a manifestation of a much older and more powerful force, one that had lurked in the shadows, using the highway as a conduit to feed on the lost souls who had passed through. The entity is not vanquished, Nathaniel warned gravely. It has merely retreated, biding its time until it can regain its strength and seek retribution. It is a force older than time itself, and its vengeance will be swift and relentless. Sarah, Jake, and Samuel realized that they had only scratched the surface of the highway's true horror. The malevolent entity had not been defeated, it had merely been provoked, and their actions had set in motion a cataclysmic reckoning. Desperate to protect themselves and the world from the entity's impending return, they joined forces with Nathaniel, who possessed knowledge of ancient rituals that could potentially imprison the malevolent force for all eternity. With time running out, they embarked on a perilous journey to gather the necessary components and unlock the secrets to defeating the entity once and for all. Their journey took them to dark, forbidden places, where they encountered supernatural entities, ancient guardians, and unspeakable horrors. Each step brought them closer to the heart of the malevolent force's power, and their determination wavered as they faced unimaginable challenges. But they pressed on, driven by a sense of responsibility and the understanding that the fate of not just Highway 66, but the entire world rested on their shoulders. The entity's malevolence grew stronger with each passing day, manifesting in ominous signs and omens that foretold an impending darkness. Finally, after months of relentless pursuit, they arrived at a desolate, forgotten shrine hidden deep within a remote forest. It was there that they performed the ancient ritual, channeling their combined strength and determination to confront the malevolent entity. As they chanted the incantations, the earth trembled, and the skies darkened with foreboding clouds. A deafening roar filled the air, and the very ground seemed to rebel against their efforts. But they stood their ground, unwavering in their resolve. In a blinding flash of light, the malevolent entity materialized before them, a swirling, amorphous mass of darkness and despair. It lashed out with fury, attempting to ensnare them once more, but they remained resolute. With a final surge of power, they unleashed the full force of the ritual. The entity let out an agonized scream that echoed through the ages, its form disintegrating into a swirling vortex of malevolence. The ground trembled, and a blinding shockwave erupted from the epicenter of the ritual, shattering the entity's essence and scattering it to the winds. When the dust finally settled, Sarah, Jake, Samuel, and Nathaniel were left standing amid the ruins of the shrine, their bodies bruised and battered, but victorious. The malevolent entity had been vanquished, its dark presence erased from existence. As they caught their breath and looked around, they realized that the curse had been lifted not just from Highway 66, but from their own lives as well. They were free at last, no longer haunted by the nightmares of the past. With a sense of closure and newfound purpose, they left the shrine behind, vowing to continue their quest to protect the world from supernatural threats. The trilogy of horrors that had unfolded on Highway 66 had come to a close, but the road ahead remained uncertain, filled with new mysteries and challenges that awaited them in the uncharted territory of the supernatural realm.